The Mummy is a 1999 action-adventure horror comedy directed by Steven Sommers. The film stars Brendan Fraser, Rachel Weisz, John Hannah, Oded Fehr, Arnold Vosloo, and a handful of others. The film follows a librarian who teams up with an American who has served in the French Foreign Legion to go to an archaeological dig in the ancient city of Hamunaptra. There, they awaken a 3,000-year-old mummy who has cursed and has come back for his revenge. So, let's take a look at the elements that make up this nostalgic, entertaining masterpiece of a thrill ride. First up, cinematography. Admittedly, this is some of my favorite cinematography of all time. It's very open and fluid, and there's tons of movement to keep the pace going. There was dolly shots, truck shots, pans, tilts, crane shots, steady cam shots. I think any and every kind of movement was used in this film, and for the better. In terms of blocking, there's a ton of establishing shots, a ton of wide shots, and a lot of medium shots. The camera moves a lot in this film, so it makes sense to use a combination of wide and medium shots. However, there are close-ups, they're mostly medium close-ups, and this is kept for dialogue or more tense moments. Overall, this type of cinematography is eye candy for me. It does a great job in the film, it serves its purpose, and it's very intentional, so it's going to get a score of 8. Next up, editing. The editing in this film is very unique in the fact that it works well with the cinematography at the cost of continuity. Similar to the cinematography, the editing is very open, it gives lots of room. When action takes place, it's very engaging and fun to watch. When there's tense moments or moments of kind of horror-like, it kind of leads the way towards that, and it also gives way for comedic moments as well without it feeling forced. Along with this, there's some very unique transitions in the film, such as the beginning, where we go from the old statue of Anubis to the present day one, that are very smooth and fluid, and it just jives well with the cinematography. The biggest flaw with this editing is that it gives continuity for the fluid pacing of the film. Take, for example, in this shot, how Jonathan just randomly switches sides. Another example, again, look at the warden in the back, and then they cut, and then look at him again. The continuity is trashed, but it gives way to better pacing, and I would rather the film be paced better than continuity be perfect. So this is going to earn a score of 6. Now let's look at lighting. For the most part of the film, the lighting is very natural, it's very realistic. For example, in the desert, when the sun is in a certain place, lighting is lit so that the shadows are on the right side of the face compared to where the sun's at. In the tombs, obviously, it would probably be pretty dark, though of course they're using the torches, but also it seems to be that they're using some sort of soft lighting to make sure that we can see the characters in the scene without it being noticeable or kind of jarring. One of my favorite things about the lighting in this film is the use of backlighting and shadows. I think this is partially done because the film needed a PG-13 rating, but personally I love it because it leaves for so much imagination and it's just really pretty scenery, to be honest with you. The lighting isn't very extravagant, but it does serve its purpose in the film, and I feel like the backlighting adds a lot of uniqueness that this film has, so it's going to earn a score of 7. Now let's look at color grading. For the most part, the film seems like it's saturated just a bit, with there being minimal color of whites, tans, golds, and blacks. I think this is definitely aimed for realism, and it also kind of matches the theme of Egypt and sand, desert. They're just trying to get that overall theme down. However, in the ancient Egypt section of the film, it seems to be a little bit more saturated, and I think this is to give a kind of a magical, mythical quality to it to really separate it from present day versus the ancient times. Overall, I think the colors work really well. I think there's a good separation between present and past, so this is going to earn a score of 7. Now, let's take a look at acting. The performances in this film were well done. Everyone fitted their character extremely well. Brendan Fraser did a great job playing the masculine, charming adventurer. He was able to play a strong lead without being overly misogynistic. He had a good sense of wit, and he also gave room for growth to the character as well. Rachel Weisz did amazing as the adventuristic, optimistic librarian. She gave her a sense of dignity while still being dainty, but not to the point where she's always the damsel in distress. The supporting cast also fit really well. Kevin J. O'Connor did great as the slimy, weaselly Benny. John Hannah did great, giving lots of comedic relief, and the list could just go on and on and on. The film was cast well, and each character seemed very fleshed out, so this is going to earn a score of 9. Up next, costumes and makeup. I'm no historian, but the costumes fit the vibe of 1920s Egypt. There's a lot of high-waisted pants, button-down shirts, overcoats. The hair looked good overall. There was a lot of that middle and side part, lots of comb-overs. I think my biggest grievance is actually Evie's eyebrows. They're basically penciled in, they're very thin, and that would certainly not be something that you would see in the 20s. But some of the better stuff in the makeup would be like the boils and sores given for Imhotep's slave army. Also, when Imhotep is regenerating, some of that is practical. Also, little things in like the supporting cast, such as like Benny's teeth, how they're like made to look dirty. Just little things like that adds details to each of these characters. Overall, it does its job. It really helps make the film what it is, so it's gonna earn a score of 7. Let's take a look at sets. These sets are immaculate. There is so much attention to detail in each one. From the desert actually being a desert, to the awesome sound stages that were done in Shepperton Studios, like the boat. The tombs had so much detail to them, such beautiful architecture. Overall, the sets are brilliantly done, and they give the film that sense of authenticity to it, so it's gonna earn a score of 7. Now let's look at effects. Now for this, we're going to be looking at visual and practical, and there were a ton in this film. Overall, the CGI looked pretty good to be 1999. Imhotep, he still holds up pretty well, the scarab beetles hold up pretty well. The only thing that really seems outdated, or could have even been dated at the time, is just some landscape shots that look very painted in. On the practical side, there was a lot, just simple things like the guns firing, bullet holes made by squibs, the sand coming through the keyhole in the door, plane when it starts sinking into the quicksand. It would almost be impossible to name all of the effects to use in this film, but the convincing blend of both practical and visual effects come together to make this film just that much more special, that much more authentic, so this category is going to earn a score of 9. Next up, sound design. I absolutely love the sound design of this film. The Foley is crisp, the sound effects are well chosen, the score fits perfect, the ADR is mixed well. Overall, it's what helps the film be so immersive. When there's lots of action and adventure, the score is very present. When there's more sweet, tender moments, it's mostly just Foley and the dialogue.
I get you.
And on top of that, the sound design earned a well-deserved Oscar nomination. I have no grievances with this sound design. I think it's one of the best I've ever heard in a film, and so it's going to earn a score of 10 for this. Lastly, the mise en scene. For the most part, this film has a pretty good attention to detail. It's obvious that there was a lot of thought and planning put into this, as it was a remake meant to bring fresh new idea or story to an audience. Because of this, the mise en scene is going to earn a 10. And the overall score for The Mummy is an 80. Overall, I think this is a fair score. The film isn't perfect, but you don't need perfection to become an instant classic. As a filmmaker, there's so many hidden gems to learn from in this film, and this is just one of those movies that has that magic that it's almost impossible to replicate.